Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. Today we are doing the tight end position and looking at some of the 2022 NFL draft prospects at that tight end position. I'm just going to say this early. I'm not that impressed with the tight end position. I mean, we've been pretty privileged, especially last year, with guys like Kyle Pitts and even Pat Freiermuth. It's two really impressive prospects who've been good in the NFL. I don't think this class is nearly as good, but we're going to get into our top five guys. And that's starting off with the Colorado State Ram, Trey Mcbride. I actually really like this dude. Outside of him, I have some serious concerns with some of these prospects, but let me tell you a little bit about Trey Mcbride. I watched this film against South Dakota State. I watched this film against Utah State. Both very impressive. And I'll start off with he's a very scrappy and physical blocker. He does a phenomenal job sealing holes for his running backs. They had David Bailey and that coach from Boston College over there, and it was pretty clear what they wanted to do, and that was run the ball with a big time running back in David Bailey. And Trey Mcbride was a central part in that run game, and I thought he did a phenomenal job doing it. Dill, I know I've sent you over some film of him. What have you seen from Trey Mcbride that you liked?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo the blocking, of course, that's probably one of the things that stands out just because they run so much. And I think he can do a lot. I think he blocks decent in space. I think he's a very good inline blocker, which is very rare for today. And willing, I think, is probably the biggest thing. He seems like he kind of loves it, which is, I think, you like to see. But on top of that, I think he has a lot more fluidity than most tight ends. I think he's running like these quick slants on the edge. He's running option routes in the middle. And I think in those scenarios, you see, I mean, he's not a wide out, but you see the fluidity of like a wide. He can make sharp cuts and instead of those rounded cuts that a lot of tight ends make.
Yeah, and I think another thing that I really like about Trey Mcbride is the full route tree. I mean, you saw him run every single route in the book. They split him out to the boundary, and he'd run really effective quick slants and use his body and just his athleticism to create separation and use body to finish catches. Long drag routes across the field, option routes and sit downs in the middle of the field. I mean, all of that was there. This dude accounted for over 30% of that team's passing yards. I mean, they only threw for 3,000 yards, and he caught for 1,100 of them. And that offense wasn't particularly exciting. I didn't think that quarterbacks, I think his name was Centeo, was that impressive. And Trey Mcbride was in a lot of ways playing hero ball for that team in the passing game. I think he had 12 catches against South Dakota State. He's a chain mover. And I think he's just an all-around really solid tight end. I'm going to give him a second, maybe early third round grade. I think that's where you get a guy like him. I think he can be a tight end one on a team, but I don't think he's going to be like a stud tight end, right? You definitely know Kyle Pitts. He's no Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be a really, really solid all-around tight end. I think the 49ers might look to get him if they can like pair him up with Kittle and just get two really, really mean tight end blockers. I think
one of the worries I think you see from him is not a ton of production down the field. There's a lot of like shorter routes, and his production was. And I think for tight ends, you want to see maybe a little more activity in the 20 to 30, or maybe like let's say 15 to 30 yard intermediate route. And I don't think, and I think part of it was product of the system.
Yes, that's kind of what I was saying. He stunk. He's not very good. And there was one play against Utah State where they ran a route designed for him. They ran like a clear out fly, and they were trying to hit him on like a long 30-yard drag route across the field. He's wide open, and Centeo just doesn't see it.
He threw it to the wide.
Yeah, he threw it to the wide.
It
was clearly designed for him. He's wide open. He just doesn't get it. So I think I'm not like that pessimistic or down on his ability to do that. You're right. We haven't seen it as much as you might want to see out of it. And then Jalen Watermeier is also kind of a guy. His longest catch was 34 yards this year. And he's an interesting prospect. People had him as a potential first round pick coming into the year.
And another guy you got sewered by quarterback play that was just subpar.
He had 8 drops this year. And Zach Calzada, similar if you guys listen to what we talked about with Justin Ross, Zach Calzada is very similar to like what DJ did. And Zach Calzada does not know how to throw like pass catcher friendly footballs. All he knows is the fastball. It doesn't matter where you could be standing 3 yards from him. He's going to throw it right at your face. And he's also just inaccurate. And I think Jalen Watermeier's drops could have been a little bit of that. And I think his overall dip in production was a little bit of that. They really had to lean on Isaiah Spiller and Devin Achaney in the run game because Zach Calzada just quite frankly stinks. Like the film I try to watch on Jalen Watermeier, just get frustrated with how Zach Calzada sucks.
In Watermeier, he did drop some balls, so that not to
and some big ones
balls
too.
He had to catch.
And there were like a few like chain moving third down balls that like that's what the tight end's for. Like you're useless tight end if you don't make it.
Is he was awesome last year, and I think if he was able to come out as last year, I think he is a second, possibly a first round pick. Like he was really, really good in my opinion.
Yeah.
You see the big athletic frame, and I think he does a decent job blocking in space. I don't think you'll get him as an inline blocker like McBride, but he does block okay in space, which he can use at least. So I don't know. I think he cuts those. He cuts those drops out. You're looking at he's easily tight end one. A dynamic guy.
I don't agree with that as much because, like, I get it. He's not only second because of the drops. Maybe he is, and maybe if he didn't have 8 drops this year, it would be different. But I'm really trying to look past it because, again, Zach Calzada, he's a tough quarterback to catch footballs for. But, like, I see, like, this, like, Travis Kelce, Kyle Pitts comps. Like, I don't think he has that juice. I think he's good, and it's a really intriguing catch for him. I mean, he is an absolute monster in the red zone, a very, very big frame and radius, and he makes some really impressive catches. That being said, like a lot of his production, it wasn't like, oh my God, he made that play. It was more just like he caught a touchdown against Alabama where just like the defense forgot about him. And I was like, yeah, that goes down as a 30-yard touchdown, but like that, I mean, like I'm not that impressed by it. And I didn't see that much on his film that was like, oh my God, that's special. That was just like he's a solid athlete at 6'5", 255 pounds, who's good after the catch. And yeah, I have a mid-third round grade on him. And because
I don't think anyone's saying he's Kyle Pitts or but those are top 10 picks, like both of them.
Mm-hmm.
If Kelce, if you knew what you're getting,
Jalen Watermeier was projected to be a top 20 pick coming into the year, and I didn't.
I don't think that's lunatic. Like I don't think he was ever top 10, but again, 20 is not Kyle Pitts good. So.
Yeah, but that's what people were talking. Like people were saying that, and I think that was just because of the novelty of Kyle Pitts. Yeah,
I don't agree with Kyle Pitts comps, but like I do think he was a first round.
One other thing I want to say is the physicality through routes is impressive. Like linebackers and safeties can't put their hands on him. He's too big, and that's a guy we're gonna get to a guy who really struggles with that. Before we get to the guy, let's get to Greg Dulcich from UCLA. I'm pretty sure I'm saying the name right. I've heard it pronounced a lot differently. A walk-on wide receiver who puts on 40 pounds and becomes one of the better downfield big play tight end threats that we've seen kind of outside of Kyle Pitts. He's probably the next one. And this guy has some crazy good speed. LSU, he was phenomenal. I think he's let's get to like what the concerns are. Is he's undersized and he doesn't block well. They left him on an island pass pro against Kayvon Thibodeau twice. He just got his butt handed. But that's also like a horrible scheme. And he's not like the best blocker. He's a willing blocker. Like he shows effort, but he's like at the end of the day, he's a converted wide receiver. He's not that comfortable doing it. That being said, what I'm intrigued about is he's 6'4", 245. So he's got decent size. He's not a big tight end by any means, but he's got some serious burners. He's very good after the catch, and he's got a full route tree. He's very good up the seam. He's very good in the flat, and he's really good on those crossing routes, just outrunning linebackers.
The crossers were, I feel like wouldn't just catch those.
He would wheel. He would get angles. He's going to run one of the faster 40s out of these tight ends. At least he plays fast. And he's just, I think he's an interesting guy. Like, I think he has the tools to be like kind of a matchup nightmare, especially if he can use to work that body.
He's probably the best ball carrier of the tight ends in terms of running
fast.
The ball.
Yeah.
I don't just mean fast speed. Like, he definitely has that, but he also has good sense. And I feel like he runs well with the ball. not just running, but like more of a sense than like a lot of tight ends, they catch the ball and just get tackled right away and don't have great feel. But he really did impress me there. So I kind of agree. I think
we're
people
high
are
on
way
him.
too
I
low
don't see him. I don't see him in anyone's top 5. And like, I really like this dude.
He's not a contested catcher, so like he's not going to be a traditional tight end like your body guys up. But yeah, that's different ways to skin a cat, if you will. So
yeah, and we'll see. I'd say I wouldn't be like that comfortable drafting him in day 2, just because I think there are a lot of question marks. But he's easily the prospect I'm most excited for. He's an interesting dude. And let's get to Isaiah Likely, who's a very, very similar kind of wide receiver E. I think he was I don't even think he was a 2-star coming out of Massachusetts. 6'4", 240. So he also, like, out there, he looks like a wide receiver. Like, he's not that big. He looks like kind of either an undersized tight end or just a bigger wide receiver. I have some big problems with him, and I'm lower than most people on him. This is the other guy that a lot of film watching, I just really couldn't figure out like what the hype is about him. I think there's a couple of problems I see. One is that he's just not that physical of a route runner. I mean, he gets kind of jammed up by linebackers and safeties consistently and has trouble kind of fighting off that press in the slot. I think a lot of his production kind of was a product of a little bit of I wouldn't say gimmicky offense, but I certainly wouldn't call it like a pro style offense. A lot of like play action dump offs in the flat. And like he's very good after the catch, and he's fast, kind of like Dolce. So it's like the safeties and linebackers have trouble keeping up with him with the speed. But like I just the physicality of like what a tight end needs to do, catching in traffic and working through guys and being a physical route runner, just like it wasn't there for me. And if he
all his production came, it seemed like guys leaving him open up the seam, but just not covering. Like a lot of production, he was just open and he was playing a lower level of football, and he didn't look particularly comfortable catching the ball anyway. It was like he didn't look like the smoothest hands.
Like so that's a low level of football.
That's concerning, of course, and I do wonder how like he's got to really fly to kind of justify
for his game to work.
His spot.
And I didn't see that speed. I didn't see like the superhuman speed.
It'd probably have to be in the lower 4.5s to even make sense.
Yeah, I agree. It'd have to be like wide receiver speed. Because essentially his body's kind of a wide receiver. I mean, Treylon Burks is pretty much this size.
Yep.
And he doesn't even look too like I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't even measure at 240. He's not big.
I'm almost surprised about the 6'4". I didn't think he.
Yeah. We'll see if all that's true. That could be a boost on Coastal's part. And he also just benefited from Grayson McCall. Like as much as like he doesn't have like the craziest talent in his arm, he's very accurate. Like he's very, very accurate. And that offense, there's a lot of space. They designed that offense to let their good athletes get in space, and Isaiah Likely benefited from that. I'm just nervous about how that translates when you have like Darius Leonard trying to like put his hands on you. Like I don't know how he's gonna.
It's another thing. Like he maybe, but he did. He wasn't forced to show enough.
Like the best other team he played was like
and
App State
stuff.
Like that, I don't know. Like,
no, I know it is, and especially the style which he was playing. But that spread, he wasn't playing in line. None of that. So
they did use him in like a little like H-back. I don't know. It didn't seem like a pro tight end to me. And I still have him at 4 because the traits are good and the production is obviously very impressive. But like I wasn't like super impressed. And then Charlie Kohler, 6'6", 260. I'm also not that high on Charlie Kohler. He's a traditional, but he doesn't block like extremely well. It's kind of hard for him to get behind his pads at that 6'6" height.
Yeah.
That being said, I think he's going to be a very effective tight end too in an offense, especially bring him in the red zone because he does have very good hands and he's very good at making catches in tight windows. Doesn't separate. He's not a great route runner by any means, but he has really good feel about how to get open in tight windows and use that big frame to catch touchdowns. And that's what he did at Iowa State. And I think he can do that at the NFL level, but it's going to be like more of a situational tight end. That's beneficial. Like a guy, I think Tyler Croft for the Bills, like they used him like that. a bigger body who can come in and catch some touchdowns for you, that's worth a day 3 pick.
Yeah, if
I
you
think
can be a red zone force, like you for sure, you're
I
a
think he will be
draftable
too.
guy.
Like because
But
he's not necessarily like he is good contested catcher, but like I see it more as like he's just really good at using that frame to make himself open and then he
he's
can
a
catch
guy. Yeah,
footballs.
you're right though. You can't. There is no cutting or like everything seems round and loopy and,
Oh,
and
he can't
just
get run
slow
routes from
running
that.
the
No,
routes. So
he's
it's like
horrible. But
I
he's six
agree. It's
six, so
like
he's 6'6", 260.
he's gonna need to, and he can do it. He does. Yeah, you're right. He can catch the ball in traffic, and if he
That's
can
what you're
carve
gonna
out
get
a
from him.
niche is what you described, like makes sense. Not a horrible pick, and especially in a weak tight end class that really.
Yeah.
You're right. You don't
Yeah,
see
there's
your
exactly. There's not going to be many tight
Pitts
ends
and
that are like,
Kelsey's
yeah,
and like even like a Dawson Knox. Like you don't see that like sort
no.
of
Tight
dynamicism.
ends
I
are
don't know if
tough
I'm
too.
saying
Like
that right,
the
but
tight ends are really tough to like argue for, like drafting them because like it's so hard for them to produce
colleges don't use them.
couple. Yeah, that and then it's very hard for them to like produce immediately.
Yeah,
I feel like Kyle Pitts is like one of the few tight ends who comes in the league and immediately makes it happen, and because he's just generational kind of guy.
he's sick.
Um, that'll do it for our top 5 tight ends. Like, honestly, just like not a class that's gonna wow you. We're gonna do another 5 and probably cut it at 10. I don't even think there'll be 10 tight ends drafted. A couple of guys to keep your eye on. Jeremy Rucker, I haven't had too much film on. I do know from watching enough Big Ten football that he's a good blocker and really just an overall good tight end.
Problem, no production. Like
Yeah, and
zero.
I think that was more just because the wide receiver.
Little Ohio State doesn't use tight ends, but
Um,
still, like you can catch the ball at
Jelani
all.
Woods from University of Virginia is an interesting guy, just like a monster.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do a review on him. Whether I put him in my top 10, we'll see. Kadon from Washington, another guy to keep your eyes out on. But other than that, like I just the tight end group isn't like it's not gonna blow your mind. Um, outside of Trey Mcbride, who I think could be a legit like solid tight end one, and Jalen Watermeier too. There's a few guys I like, but I'm not like super excited about this group. With that being said, appreciate you guys rocking with us at ROC Boys Football. And we'll be back with more prospect rankings. And we're going to get to some mock drafts this weekend. Let's get it, baby. Peace.